What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. I'm going to shift over to Calgary for a second here. Not because Alberta is always under the microscope, but one of the things that I'm finding interesting that's going on right now is the installation of government. When you look at what happened with Mark Carney over the federal election, the Liberals tanking behind the Conservatives, swapping over to Mark Carney, rigging. You can't even say it otherwise. They blatantly came out and showed Mark Carney was selected and installed as leader of the Liberals. They disqualified anybody who got a lead ahead of him. The list goes on, but we all know that, yes, he was installed as Liberal leader and then closed the gap on the polling to questionably flip some ridings, take the election, and now sits where he does. I've had a sneaking suspicion for a long time that there's a lot of corruption that goes on within, whether it's municipal, provincial, federal. When it comes to our governments, a lot of shenanigans going on. But now, in a riding that I was once going to run in, that I threw my hat into, failed woke Mayor Jyoti Gondek is being reported on early. Now, keep in mind, there is a municipal election later this year. They haven't even started campaigning yet. But you've got Rick Bell, columnist for the Calgary Herald, coming out saying that Calgary Mayor Gondek is on the comeback trail and thinks she can win. Keep in mind that Mayor Jyoti Gondek was the first, we'll say politician, the first elected official to have Alberta's recall legislation enacted on them. Now, I've said often that I feel that the person who enacted that recall jumped the gun. They did it at the worst time of the year. It could have been way better laid out, it could have been planned better in order to get the necessary signatures, though Jyoti Gondek, when the signatures came in, said she was going to invalidate them all anyways. You've got Councillor Dan McLean. I wanted to show this because there was a time when I threw my hat into the ring when I was living in Calgary and said I was going to run for mayor of Calgary. Now, I met with Dan McLean last summer and I was told, don't vote split. Don't do it. You're going to ruin things for Calgary if you run for mayor. He said that he was backing Sonia Sharp, who was another councillor in Calgary. There was also rumor that Jeremy Farkas was going to run again. So Dan McLean said, don't you dare stick your head in here and split the vote. Now, there was some other colorful conversation, but ultimately friendly. I don't want to say it was negative, but ultimately it pushed me out of the run. Two reasons. One, I didn't want to fundraise. Through those who were willing to support me, there were people in powerful positions in terms of influence. I don't want to say powerful in terms of government, but influence. They had finances. They had the ability to fund a campaign. They wanted to support a campaign. I did not want to waste anyone's money or time if I felt that this was not going to take, that we didn't stand a chance, because ultimately I was talking about running a campaign on responsibility. I didn't feel that'd be responsible. I digress. We're going off track here. But now you've got the same thing going on here where he says, what do you think? Could she win? And of course, he cites the article. We're going to get into the article, but down here in the comments, Dean Primo comes out and says, if you and Sonia both run, you'd split the vote. Gondek secures the Northeast vote. That's the important thing to remember here. The Muslim vote in Calgary is always secured to the woke Muslim-style Khalistani mayors. This is what happened with Naheed Nenshi. This is what's happening with Jyoti Gondek. So they secured the Northeast vote. Low voter turnout, she wins. Don't let this happen. That is exactly what happened in the last Calgary election. Low voter turnout. People said, what's the point? And the reason they say that is because every time Naheed Nenshi won, they would call the election just like Canada's federal vote, by the time they would get through Northeast Calgary because of the per capita, the seats outranked the rest of the city. So they could call the election without even giving a damn about anybody else's votes. Dan McLean comes in and said, I never said I was running for mayor. I'm running in Ward 13 again. Next guy says, too bad, Dan. Thought you would run. Best of luck in Ward 13. Thanks, and you're right. Vote splitting has consequences. Now, he's still on that wagon. Again, this is part of the reason I dropped out of that race. Now, rightfully so. I think the best decision was made. I'm not sitting here on sour grapes saying I shouldn't have run. Again, I didn't want to waste anybody's time or money. Hopefully they get somebody decent in Calgary that can make some change. Hopefully Farkas wins or Sonia Sharp. But this article is saying that in advance, before there's any polling, before there's any debates, before there's any announcement of what they're running on, well, Jyoti Gondek's she thinks she can win. Let's pump her up. Let's get her numbers in there. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Calgary Herald coming out. Again, the article, Calgary Mayor on the comeback trail. She thinks she can win. This is also the mayor who shut down your water usage for the entire summer last year because they ignored inspections on water main pipes. Back to the Nahid Nenshi days again. This is the result of WEF running mayors. There are many who think Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of being reelected this October. Of course, Gondek is not one of them. I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I could win, she says. Now, those words are so chilling because, again, I've shown the charts in relation to Khalistani World Sikh Organization leaders, how they're all, including Jagmeet Singh, all wrapped up in one big little ball. One big little. I know that's the worst way to put it. What is Gondek hearing when she goes out and about in the city? Is it good? Is it bad? What are people saying? I can tell you right now that nobody, aside from the per capita vote of Muslims, backs Jyoti Gondek. Fart-huffing liberals, which there aren't that many in Calgary, they're kind of focused in one or two areas of Calgary, are the only other ones who would back Mayor Jyoti Gondek. Gondek is confident many citizens will actually, or are actually, pretty happy. It says here, it's wonderful to be out in the community. Calgarians are very positive about their city. Investors are bullish on us. Talking to City Hall watchers and contemplating the reality of Cowtown Kremlin is one heck of a thankless job. Most of them figure the mayor actually has a shot of being reelected, especially in a crowded field where the vote is split up amongst many candidates. Again, this is the reason that I stood back. I looked at the math and said, I'm not going to contribute to that. I often criticize people like Maxime Bernier. I said, it's not fair. I'm not going to do that to Calgary. I don't want to do that to Calgary unless there's a very surefire reason that a win could be possible. These other candidates that don't have any opportunity to do so, they should do the same. And if they don't have the right polling, if they don't have the resources to at least feel they can run against Jyoti Gondek, they should not be in this race if they care about Calgary. Even some of her toughest critics tell them they are taking her re-election seriously. They are taking nothing for granted. Again, given them what Mark Carney just pulled off. One recent City Hall issue that didn't get enough attention was that the column had a lot of Mark Carney, Danielle Smith, and separatists in the fact that Calgary City Hall has been swimming in surplus dollars. With all the surplus dough, hundreds of millions of dollars, your taxes were not cut, tax hikes were not eliminated, tax hikes were not even lowered. I know this is part of the reason that we wanted to move out of Calgary. The cost of living there is way too expensive. On a scale of 1 to 10, they charge you at an 11 and they give you a 3. That's the biggest problem. There were no rebate checks. The flow of money came from gouging on your power bills, cash made on investments in creative bookkeeping. NGOs is another one that I would point out. The surplus money was also spent to put part of the city's rainy day fund where it eventually was spent, even when the sun is shining. Surpluses well over $200 million last year and the year before. Another surplus will come this year. Does that sound like a responsible government? They're not giving it back to you? They're not benefiting you in some way? I mean, it says it right here. The surplus money was spent to put in a rainy day fund, and even though the sun was shining, it was eventually spent. Here's the play. City Hall brass tells City Council how much money they will rake in for the next year. The number is kept low. City paper shufflers then tell City Council they need money. They turn their pockets inside out. You are taxed more. Later, there's a big surplus, but you've already paid the tab year after year. Again, part of the reason that we said it's time to get out of here. And again, I'm not advocating to say, hey, one place is better than the other. But one thing I noticed when I moved to Spruce Grove, the roads are in better condition. There's police watching school zones. People seem to have the services that they need. The grass is cut on city greenery. Like so many different things happen, and I understand there's a big volume difference between somewhere like Spruce Grove versus the city of Calgary. But all we saw in Calgary was just pay, get nothing back. Services are lousy. Nothing is upkept. The city's always talking about being broke. And every year, like clockwork, your property taxes shoot up. And boy, do they ever shoot up, not to mention the cost of your services. It says, now think about this. If the city paper shufflers told council that there would be a big windfall coming their way, what would happen? There would be pressure from city taxpayers to give some of the money back to them. Here's Gondek. Are we being too conservative in our estimates? If that's the case, then let's stop being conservative and let's start being realistic and start projecting and forecasting according to what we think we are going to receive. I want to see some real numbers. This is the state of Calgary City Hall, where the mayor is asking for real numbers from City Hall big shots. You create churn when it's uncovered, you have more money. Now all of a sudden it becomes a free-for-all. What are we going to do? What we are doing, is not working because we're having these surplus moments. So what will happen with the 2025 surplus? Could Calgarians get a break on property taxes? Here is Gondek again. Everything is on the table. We have to look at every possible way we can benefit Calgarians. Now keep that in mind because I'm going to get to that in a second. The matter will be discussed at the city's budget discussions in November. The city elections is in October. Gondek will only be at those November budget talks if Calgarians put her there if the mayor is re-elected. By then, we could hope the city budget will be clear and easy to read. The renowned C.D. Howe Institute gave Calgary City Hall a swift kick in the butt for its crappy financial reporting. How would you describe it? It's like a dog's breakfast. I take that back. That's an insult to dogs and a breakfast. I like that. I really do like that. Gondek says she is trying to undo the practices of the past, but it's going to take some time. The city election is creeping up on us, and for those who like to play the blame game, no scribbler chooses a mayor. It's up to Calgarians to vote. Most of those eligible to vote last time did not even bother to cast a ballot. That's important to note as well. Calgarians read all the stories in the column of City Hall's theater of the absurd, but more of a few that do not understand that they are the ones controlling the script. They can hire politicians and they can fire politicians. For Gondek's part, she is soldiering on one. The mayor says it's really up to the city council to hold City Hall administration accountable. That's her pitch. I've asked some pretty tough questions on the floor of council, and I'm going to continue to push. Now, what's important about Jyoti Gondek, and what I want to focus on here, is that a video recently came out talking about my comments on different government issues, on people revolting over budgets, on taxes. This YouTuber was also from Calgary, I believe, and he says, look, people put up with mediocrity. They'll complain, but they do nothing about it. Now, that statement reigns a little true. I will give it that. I've seen this in Calgary all too often. And again, part of the reason we were influenced to leave is the fact that every 4 years, and you'll see this like clockwork because it was discussed down here, could we see taxes be rolled back? And she says, no, I won't know until November. Keep in mind that just like Mark Carney ran on Donald Trump, it's all about Trump. Jyoti Gondek will do the same thing. This is straight out of Naheed Nenshi's playbook. She's going to run a campaign on, hey, you know what? We've had all these surpluses. We're going to lower taxes for you guys. It's going to get cheaper. And they'll lower it for a year. Naheed Nenshi was famous for doing this every election. He'd give some money back, he'd lower the taxes slightly, and then as soon as he got in, boom, back up again. That's exactly what Jyoti Gondek's going to do here. Keep in mind, given her track record, this is the same mayor who couldn't get enough police on the ground, still can't get enough police on the ground. The premier had to step in and do her job for her, supplying enough police to get through Calgary Stampede, to provide security at the LRT, which is their train system. And of course, Jyoti Gondek was thick enough, we'll say thick-headed enough, to get on a train downtown with a camera crew and show herself riding the train afterwards saying how safe it was while she was surrounded by private police escorts. That's ridiculous. The fact that this lady thinks she can win tells me that something else shady is happening at City Hall, that this is going to be another installation, that they have demographics to show that, again, the Northeast vote is going to help her exponentially. This is the problem with government. This is the problem with the way things are set up in our cities right now. This is why Gondek runs Calgary, so he runs Edmonton, is because you have lazy voters who want to complain, who don't do anything, who don't do their due diligence, that won't stand in a lineup, that won't vote these people out. As the column says, you have the ability to hire and fire them, and nobody wants to take advantage of that. The biggest problem when it comes to any city ballot, and it's the same thing that's being discussed with Pierre Poilievre's by-election, with sabotage, is that the number of people on a ballot can often encourage people whether or not they're going to go out and vote. And this is going to be an ongoing issue until our races are held in a responsible manner. And until people are willing to say, I don't care how many ballots are on or how many names are on the ballot, I'm going out, I'm voting, I'm going to make sure. I'm sick and tired of this. People who believe the system doesn't work, at some point in time, it has to. It has to. If we give up, that's us surrendering our ability to change the outcome of elections. It's us surrendering any hope of a democracy. And while one doesn't feel like it's working, I'm certainly somebody who says quitters never win and winners never quit. Call me naive if you want to. But I have a bad feeling after articles like this where they're already talking about the possibility of Jyoti Gondek leading another 4 years in Calgary. That city is in deep, deep, deep trouble if she is reelected. Any city across Canada that has this kind of government behaving this way, that use these shady tactics to get reelected, they all need to go. All these World Sikh Organization, all these Khalistans, all these WEF installed mayors, Marxists, need to be cast out. People need to take their cities back, their provinces back, their countries back. All this is going to do is fuel more discussion, more hatred, more division. Go make a change. If you're in Calgary watching this video, please make sure you go out and vote this year in the municipal election. Please make sure you get it done. If you're in another city and you have these problems, get people out voting. Go out door knocking, support a candidate, make sure you're doing the right thing. We can't do this anymore. I don't know about you guys. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you think Jyoti Gondek stands a snowball's chance in hell of winning? Do you think it's going to be tinkered with, we'll say, because again, YouTube doesn't like certain words? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you're hitting that subscribe button, you turn on your bell for all notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday for Friday Night Fringe, my weekly live streaming show, where we go over everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A and back and forth within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say outside of making these videos, but I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.